you name it, like whatever it is, people are resistant to new technology. And maybe, there's a healthy dose of skepticism there is good, but not to the point where you become a Luddite.
Well, then there's the took our jobs kind of crowd.
You can have your load shift inside. Autonomous vehicles aren't going to be able to manage that.
Like I read an article about this where they literally programmed the cars based off of like local people's survey answers. Like, would you rather run over an old person or a gay person? And I'm like, how do you know?
It'll happen eventually. And then the singularity and Skynet will take over. Okay, welcome to another kitchen sink microscopy. I'm Eric Rosenblatt, and we would love it. It would help us out a lot if you'd like and share this video, or you could dislike it too. Although nowadays you can't even see dislikes, so what the fuck's the point? And subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell if you want notifications and everything. Yeah, it'd be great. That's what the cool kids do these days.
Ring my bell. Ring my bell. I am Casey Rochford, and we'd love it if you'd ring our bell after hitting the subscribe button and hang out to the end for the music that we write. Because we write awesome music, and that's why you should hang out through the whole conversation. So what do you want to converse about today?
Well, we've had kind of a list of things, and I was kind of going through the list of different topics we brought up in the past, and one thing that I have a lot of opinions about that was on that list is autonomous vehicles, like self-driving cars and stuff. And I think that would be like a really interesting topic to talk about. I mean, it's kind of an emerging technology right now. And people either love it or hate it. But I think that would be a pretty good one.
There's like controversy with it too, because there's already been like accidents and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's like, what's the proportion out of all the like self-driving cars that are actually out there right now? What's the actual proportion of accidents versus like non-accidents, and then compare that to like real drivers?
And that would be a tough thing to analyze to get the data on that. But yeah. Like the non-accidents, like, okay, how many
sample sizes are way different.
Yeah. Like, how many times has an autonomous vehicle avoided an accident a human might have actually gotten into?
Who records near misses?
Nobody. It's not remarkable, Like,
hello, police. I almost got in an accident. Write that down.
Yeah.
It's for science.
Exactly. I almost had to shoot somebody, but I didn't. Or, like I got a guy came up to me and told me to give me his money, or give him my money, and I just ran away and nothing happened. You don't report that,
Hello, police. I didn't actually kill the guy that was banging my fiance, so you're gonna give me a pat on the back for that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, that's another episode we should probably talk about at some point, like all the things around that. But yeah, and the thing to keep in mind, I mean, there's always people who are resistant to new technology. It's been happening since forever. Even the telegraph people didn't like. They didn't like radio. The people were scared of TV, or they thought it was going to rot your mind. Video games, like you name it, like whatever it is, people are resistant to new technology. And maybe, there's a healthy dose of skepticism there is good, but not to the point where you become a Luddite, right?
Yeah.
And this is new. Autonomous vehicles are relatively new. So there's always some growing pains. It's the engineering process. You try it, you test it. I mean, and there's only so much you can do in the lab to really make it to really improve it. You really have to have real world situations, and unfortunately that comes with injury or death in some situations. But the hope is eventually, through all of this trial and error, we'll have a much safer product. And I think it's worth the risk in that sense.
Yeah. Well, then there's the took our jobs kind of crowd, because they're already kind of complaining that, maybe because there's talk of doing this with semi trucks and stuff, and all the CDL holders are worried that they're going to lose their livelihood.
Well, and I think that's a rational response to
but you
things.
Still need someone to offload the truck, right?
Well, not only that, but there's a lot more to, like, say, for semi trucks or bus driving or taxi driving. There's a lot more to it than just simply sitting behind the wheel and pushing on pedals with your feet and turning the steering wheel. With tractor trailer stuff, you've got to check your load, you got to check your tires, the equipment. Like there's a lot to be paying attention to during that. And there may be times where the situation does require human intervention. So truck drivers in the future might be more like, I guess, overseers or managers or something.
Yeah. You might have like a spur of the moment route correction, or like something got missed, you got to turn back or whatever. There's all kinds of things that'll happen outside the algorithm. And, I think it would just be more of an assistance thing. Like, maybe you can cover more ground by just having the human drive all day and then take a nap in the cab or whatever, and let the autonomous mode drive through the night when there's less traffic and stuff.
Sure. That would some kind of hybrid system. But yeah, like you could have a tire lose tread. Happens all the time with semis. You can have your load shift inside. Autonomous vehicles aren't going to be able to manage that. You actually have to have a person. If you have stuff strapped down, you have to check the straps, their tension, all that stuff. There's a lot to it.
And then, you might be dropping loads.
Dropping loads. Exactly. Well, and that does happen too. So what does an autonomous vehicle do in that case? Now, I mean, I've gotten in discussions with people. I have some friends who are firmly of the belief that fully autonomous self-driving cars are just around the corner where it'll be flawless. And I don't believe that. I think we still have a long way to go. I think it's a worthy endeavor. Like, we should be going in this direction. We have the technology to do it, but there are issues. There are situations that require preemptive actions, like far in advance. I use the example of like, picture yourself in a car driving. Let's say you're driving on like a highway, right? And you see a ball bounce into the street, just like some little kid's ball just bouncing into the street. What do? Like, what goes through your head when you see that happening? Like a ball bouncing into the street or across the street in front of you.
Oh, there's a kid gonna probably chase after it.
Yeah, exactly. Computers don't know that. Like,
well, you can program that pretty easily, I think.
They don't,
because there's entire like ethical and moral programming that goes into like it they can somehow apparently discern like who's gay. like I read an article about this where they literally program the cars based off of like local people's survey answers. Like, would you rather run over an old person or a gay person? And I'm like, how do you know what their sexual preference is?
Yeah, that'd be very difficult, like without interacting with somebody.
Apparently the car knows.
Well, okay,
the car has
learning,
gaydar.
Yeah, gaydar. Machine learning can do quite a lot, but it may be able to recognize that there's something in the street. Now, the ball example is one of many examples. There are hundreds of things that we intuitively as humans just know, right? If a ball is bouncing into the road, there's probably a kid following close behind. So you better open your eyes, slow down a little, maybe expect there to be a kid. But computers don't necessarily have that awareness of what a thing is and what the implications are of a thing yet, right? Like it'll happen eventually. And then the singularity and Skynet will take over. But, for now, it's very much in its infancy. There's a lot of holes, a lot of situations that we easily understand. We can comprehend very, very easily what's going on. Like you can predict what's going to happen long before it does as a driver, just by your understanding of the world around you. Computers don't necessarily know what a thing actually is. Not all the time. I mean, they know what we program and what they've learned and stuff, but not enough to be competent as people are. Like I can tell by the way that somebody is driving that they're going to change lanes, right? Like just because of maybe their hesitation or how they adjust their speed or things like that.
If you can't do that, you shouldn't ride a motorcycle. Let me tell you that. I do that all the time on the bike. Like, oh, I can totally tell that person is trying to take a left. They don't even have a turn signal on. They're not looking at me, but they're going to turn left in front of me. Yep, yeah, sure enough.
Exactly. Or they're about to cut into your lane, Now, machine learning will eventually teach these systems how to predict those things. And they may, in fact, surpass human beings in, from our ability to predict. They may find things that we didn't even know existed, patterns and stuff like that. But not right now, not now at all. It's not even close. Not even close. In fact, wasn't there a Tesla that was on autopilot that just simply barreled right into a crash on the freeway? Just boom, headlong right into like a tipped over semi or something.
Oh, geez.
As a human, you would probably know. Now, of course, there's probably dumbass humans that would do that anyway. People fall asleep at the wheel. They look down at the stereo. They're texting or whatever. So yeah, at this point, it's probably kind of a wash.
So from a programming standpoint, let's go back to the ball in the road.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of different types of balls.
Yeah.
Wait, that sounded dirty.
Oh, yes, it is.
A red ball, a big red ball, like a football, soccer ball, a differently colored soccer ball,
different sizes,
a hula hoop, but point I'm trying to get at is is it easier to program all these things or just say, if there's an object bouncing in the road, just stop? Because what if it's a grenade? Don't stop.
Yeah.
What if it's a fake grenade? Maybe humans couldn't tell, but maybe the computer could.
Yeah, it could. That's an interesting proposition, actually. Yeah.
I mean, how often are grenades flying out in front of you?
Well, sure, but there are situations where people set up traps for drivers, and maybe autonomous vehicles might be able to be more easily trapped by just simply putting some obstruction in the road, which you might be like, okay, wait a minute. The Admiral Akbar in you is yelling get out of there. It's a trap.
Well, and then I wonder about defensive driving. There's so much emphasis placed on that, but if that's the only tool in your toolkit, you're going to get in a wreck eventually.
Mhm.
Like there are times where you need to be offensive to get out of a situation,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
exactly.
and you have to make a really quick decision based on that. Whereas, the instinct is to just slow down or stop or whatever,
Hmm.
but maybe you need to gun it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, or even at like a traffic light. I'm remembering thinking about the past. Back in the '90s, I was driving around late at night, like super late. I was kind of like over by Hilltop, just cruising around. And for those who don't know, Hilltop in the '90s in Tacoma was a treacherous place to be, indeed. Um, so I'm sitting at a red light, just chilling, listening to music, and I see this dude who's all like clearly whacked out on something. And then he looks at me and starts running towards my car, like running like at the door, the driver's door. And I'm like, oh shit, no. Like took off out of there,
Yeah.
blew through the red light because I knew that was, he was up to no good. So the best thing is to get out of there. And that might be very hard to program into these kind of autonomous vehicles. I don't know that we'll ever get to that point. Honestly, that's where humans, like, we have to be present, I guess,
Yeah.
in certain situations. Maybe the freeway driving is very easy to do autonomously, but like side streets and dealing with weird roundabouts and strange intersections and stuff, I don't know that computers are quite up to that point yet. The software just doesn't understand what's going on, and that's really the thing that has to happen, is understanding that, like the ball thing, like you're saying, different colors of balls, different sizes, different shapes, but we all know them to be balls, like in lickety split. Like, whoa, it's a ball bouncing across the street, but a computer might be like, well, is that a ball? Is it like some balloon that's floating? Is that like glare off of somebody's car, some anomaly from the imaging system? Like, it doesn't know.
Yeah.
And it'll be a long time before it does. And that is a really critical step for making autonomous vehicles actually safe, to the point where you could just kick back and take a nap and not worry about it and just let it drive for you.
You probably could program it to like escape certain situations, like somebody like moving aggressively toward your door or something. But then how is the car going to know that it's not your buddy just fucking with you? And then all of a sudden, like, you just take off.
Yeah. Or yeah, if it's something, a positive thing, right? Maybe you're driving through like an area where there's a festival happening and there's people dancing around, and the car interprets that as a threat.
Yeah.
Like and this is the thing, like, machine learning is the key to like, it has to be exposed to a lot of situations over and over and over again to collectively put all the pieces together. But
that makes me think of horses. There's like horses that you can, ride on the side of a highway and they don't give a shit about the cars.
Yeah.
And then there's horses that are skittish as fuck.
That's true.
And I'm wondering, like, are these autonomous cars going to have like a personality? Because I mean, they're not like the Borg collective where they're all learning simultaneously the things that all of them are learning, right?
Well, no, and your own car might adapt to your own situation. Like a car that lives in, say, like Mexico, probably doesn't have to deal with snow. But a car that, is like in Quebec might have to all the time. So, maybe the cars will adapt on their own, picking up information as they go, learning better ways of dealing with the particulars of your own region. Yeah. Oh man, that's a deep thing. And that's what I'm thinking. Like, as such, they might kind of develop a personality, like little quirks that one car has because it's been evolving in this one particular place.
Because, I mean, our brains are computers, essentially. So there's
Yeah.
no reason a computer couldn't do what our brain does.
Mm-hmm.
But our brains are also a huge product of our environment and our experiences.
Yeah, exactly.
And as such, the machine learning is either going to have to incorporate that, or it's not really going to be effective in those unpredictable situations.
Yeah, totally. Now, I don't know that. I think we just trade one thing for another, because human beings also make stupid decisions or irrational decisions when faced with stuff we don't understand. We just, something you've never seen before happens, and you just try to react as best as you can. Um, and computers would probably do the same thing, and they are, I think. Oh wait, got a little. Hey, Floyd, there he is. Finally made an appearance. It's been a while. For the mascot of the show, you're pretty absent. Um, so I would see. I I think it's kind of neutral as far as I'm concerned. Like there are positives. There are things that computers can do that people can't, but there are things that people can do that computers can't. And you're probably going to see kind of the same sort of statistical, uh, I guess, what would be the word for it? The statistical levels for accidents happening,
Right.
across the board. There's going to be things where people would look at things and be like, "Oh, that was a stupid thing," and then there's stuff where a computer would look at it and was like, "Well, why would they do that?"
I also wonder about, like tech that we already have, um, like the lane assistance thing.
Oh yeah,
What if there's like snow on the ground, like fresh snow, no tracks or anything,
yeah.
and the autonomous car is like relying on those to guide it? What
Mm-hmm.
happens?
Yeah,
How would it know where to go? Like, unless it becomes like familiar with its surroundings and it happens to be in a neighborhood it knows and it can use landmarks. But
well,
what if you're somewhere you don't know?
true, and that made me think about this one time I borrowed a friend's van to go to Eastern Washington to do some work, and on the way back, it was totally dumping snow, and there was a bunch of slush on the road. It was like 20 degrees out. So as soon as any vehicle adjacent to me hit a patch of slush, it threw it onto the window and instantly froze, right?
Oh,
Instantly. So and of course, I'm running there's like de-icer, windshield washer fluid. I'm running that and running the wipers. Eventually it ran out of washer fluid.
oh,
So I had nothing. I just had wipers that just like rubbed over the ice. And I could see less and less, to the point where I'm looking through this little hole where they're like basically it's the spot where the defrost vent was blowing up on the window, and it was melting a tiny little spot. So I'm looking through this little hole driving on a freeway across a mountain pass, as there's like trucks and there's ice, and every few feet I'm hitting something like sliding and stuff. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna fucking die here. But how about those situations? What if all the sensors are obstructed by ice or dirt or dust or something, or you don't maintain them?
yeah.
What
Like
happens?
those backup cameras, like when it's raining and they're covered with water, they're useless.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
What about the cameras that are like guiding the car as it's driving?
Sure. And that's something, maybe that might be solved by machine learning, where it can kind of like interpolate what is actually going on, but it's going to be very difficult. Like we as humans know this world intimately, so we can kind of guess what it is we're seeing, even if we can't see it with clarity. Computers, I don't think they can. I mean, it's going to get the whole ball thing is going to get really difficult when it's late at night and it's like sleet is coming down and freezing on your car. Like it.
Maybe there's some kind of like sonar backup
There,
system.
no, there is. But
okay.
you know, how far are we going to go? Sonar, radar, cameras, all this stuff. How many sensors are we going to have to compensate for the shortcomings when there's inclement weather? You know, because there is all over the world, everywhere you go. You know, and I don't know. I don't think it's gonna. I think it's gonna be a very long time before this technology is really solid. Like for now, it's kind of experimental. It's a novelty. It's like, oh yeah, it's really cool. You can push a button on your Tesla and just take a nap. You know, roll the seat back and take a nap. You know, but I I wouldn't trust it honestly. I don't even trust being a passenger in a car with another human. Like, that shit scares me.
Yeah.
Let alone like a basically an infant computer that doesn't know anything. Like, oh,
Yeah, and just like being in the car with the automation in full control isn't really that useful, because if you're not engaged in the actual acts and motions of the driving, you're probably not actually paying attention to the road. Like
no. And if there's an emergency, how quickly are you going to be able to like
take over.
Sum up the situation and take control?
Yeah.
Like if you're sitting there looking at social media, you know, watching your TikToks or something like that,
or having sex or whatever.
Yeah. or yeah, like if you're not already there, present in the moment, like you're not going to be able to save yourself in time, I guess.
So I don't know. You think it's a good idea to even keep going in that direction?
Yeah.
Is there a point?
I think so, but I think we should not be so headstrong about it, assuming that it is.
But I'm seeing there's like a give and take, right? Like, yeah, we're humans, we're imperfect, and we have accidents, but we also have intuition. So you take away the intuition and you increase like the logic. This is how things are supposed to work, sort of thing. And you have no intuition to, you know, deal with the surprises or whatever. I feel like it's going to be a wash, and there's like a whole bunch of R&D that goes into it. And then there's invariably going to be people that just rely too heavily on it, people that are skeptical of it and like override it, trying to save their ass. And I don't know if it's really going to like make an appreciable improvement.
Well, you know, it might, although I think we're going about it all wrong. The Tesla model is essentially they have software that they've developed in a lab, essentially on closed tracks and things, testing stuff out. And then they put it to the public, and the public is essentially the guinea pig, the test subjects. So they add that data while using it. Well, I've got a better idea. From the standpoint of machine learning, it would be better if the car never had control at all and was simply collecting data, just watching what's happening and looking at your response, the inputs, right? Like what you're doing with the steering wheel, the pedals, all that stuff, and looking at the scene and trying to analyze it and like how humans react to situations. And if there's a fault, right? Like you as a human do something, take a turn too tightly and slide off the road, it takes note of that. And it's like, oh, well, this is how this failure happened, is they were going too fast, turn too tightly. Oh, okay, I'm going to make note of that, and just kind of collect all this data for like a really, really long time, analyzing millions of situations, millions of different encounters out there. That's how you create a decent autonomous system. It doesn't have to have control, it simply has to observe. And that doesn't seem to be well, and I get it because it's a novel thing. It's like who wouldn't want to have an autopilot button on their car? Like, I mean, that's a selling point. It's something people brag about, like, oh yeah, my car drives itself. So, but I think we're jumping the gun. It's a little too soon. We don't have enough data. The machines are too stupid to be able to deal with things. But fortunately, there's an out. There's an alternative right now, and it's something I firmly believe, is the future of transportation. Flying cars. And not in the sense of the Jetsons or the couple things that we've seen throughout the years with the jet nacelles that pivot and stuff. No, like personal drones, like drone taxis and things like that. That is where it's at. I think. Like I believe that this is going to be the new form of transportation. Because it solves a lot of those weird issues that cars have. And drone technology is pretty buttoned down at this point. Like when you're talking small drones, you could just scale it up to something bigger and basically have the same effect. And they already exist.
Japan is prototyping a flying car right now. And
like a drone type or
no, like you pilot it. Well, like it basically like a drone, yeah.
Oh,
but it only goes like for 10 minutes.
Well,
which means you can only go 5 minutes away and then you got to turn back so you can charge it.
Battery technology is a problem with large drones like that. Yeah. I know there have been experiments. There's experiments in the US, there's experiments in China and Japan. Throughout the world, there's been hobbyists that have built their own like autonomous drone vehicles. It's totally doable. And when you cut away from 2 dimensions and go 3 dimensions, well, you've exponentially increased the amount of volume, which makes it a lot safer because the odds of actually having a collision are so much more reduced at that point. I mean, keep in mind, here's the thing. What is an accident? Like a car accident? Well, it's 2 objects occupying the same space at the same time. And when you only have 2 dimensions where everything is on the same plane, well, the odds are pretty high. If you add a 3rd dimension, well, then the odds are negligible. Like it's almost impossible, especially when everything has transponders and is communicating with each other. Like, oh, here I am, just go up like a few feet and whoop, you avoid a collision.
Yeah.
I think that's actually the future, and I think it's awesome. Like to think that in our lifetime we're gonna have like flying cars, basically.
I mean, the biggest problem I see with that is the energy. The energy requirements for that are astronomical. And if our overall goal is to like better the environment, we really need to have a better energy source to power those things before we even think about trying to develop them.
Well, that's true. Like the energy density of batteries right now is, I mean, it's gotten really good compared to what it was 100 years ago, but it's still kind of shite.
I mean, my happy medium, I mean, like when I find myself in times of trouble, Roddenberry comes to me speaking words of wisdom. I think we should just have a computer that talks to us, like the enterprise computer, like object off the port bow, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
it just sees things maybe before you can and alerts you, like object approaching the car at 6 o'clock, you know, like,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can like look in your mirror and, you know, see what's going on and figure out if you need to swerve or stop or speed up or whatever.
Oh yeah. Well, and if you're up in the air, it's a lot easier to see what's coming.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes, yes
Especially,
and no.
well, true. I
You've got
mean,
way more directions to be looking.
sure, but then transponders could solve that. I think that's kind of drones are already doing that now, so they can avoid colliding with each other and things like that, other aircraft and stuff.
They can't even
Um,
avoid walls.
well, it depends on the drone. I mean, now that technology too is still pretty young, but it's kind of amazing how far it's come in such a short time. Um, I remember at the mall and stuff going and looking at the quadcopters that were for sale, and you'd have to like actively operate them just to keep them stable because they'd be like constantly drifting and falling. That's no longer a thing. And the one I have can recognize me, and I can give it like hand signals, and it can do stuff like it'll like follow my hand as I move around. Like, what? That is mind blowing. Like,
I had a
what?
$10 Costco one that could do that. Like
Mm-hmm.
not very well, but like you would just hold it in the palm of your hand and then just go like this and it would be like and
Mm-hmm.
then you could like do all this like matrix shit and it would just like fly around and
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, the one I have will like follow. Like if there's a follow mode where you could say, okay, go up to this altitude, and I'm going to start walking or driving, and just follow me. And it does pretty well, and it also avoids obstacles mostly. Um, Trees are kind of a problem, um, but
yeah.
big solid objects like other cars or aircraft, things like that, people. Um, it, one like I feel like that is going to be the future of transportation. There will be a time, probably in our lifetimes, where you can call up a taxi and it'll be a drone. You'll have drone deliveries. I don't like the word drone because it's kind of, well, I mean, they're sort of that way now because a drone would be autonomous. Um, they're almost there. Um, wow, what's up, Floyd? You want your own kitty drone? um, but I think adding that third dimension will make a huge difference. And at that point, once the whole like power source, the battery thing is sorted out, nobody's going to want to drive cars anymore. Aside from like the roads will be barren, aside from people who are collectors, right? That have like these collector cars. They just want to drive for fun. And actually, I think that's kind of cool too, because it's like, all right, well, it'll just be a bunch of
Or that's all you can afford.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But there won't be very many people. Well, okay, you could afford a taxi, I suppose. Maybe you people may not necessarily own their own personal drone vehicle. Um, there will probably be a lot of taxis, shipping services, all that stuff. I mean, who knows? The sky's the limit, really. Well, no pun intended there.
Yeah. I feel like that would be like complicated for the FAA.
Well, it would be, and I'm sure they're going to try to put their mitts in it, but
Yeah.
they don't know enough. Like,
But like navigating airspace with the few planes that occupy such a large volume as the sky,
mm,
um, that's already hard enough. And I mean, there's probably like altitude limitations for a flying car, I'm sure, but
oh yeah, yeah, there is.
you would kind of need something like that, like just like when you have busy traffic in Seattle, sometimes the police will come and like let people out of their driveways or whatever, and
Well,
and
and the like, I mean, it's gotten even better since I bought the drone that I have, but the one I have has an altitude limit automatically. You can override it for emergency use if you need to, but it's like a ceiling set, so you don't interfere with aircraft. Actually, it's only like 400 feet above the ground, which most commercial aircraft are flying at 30,000 feet or more.
Right.
So you don't have much to worry about. They already take into consideration the GPS location in relation to like airport zones and stuff. So you can't even bring them into those areas. They just won't go without modification. So it's kind of already sorted out in a sense. And for transportation, just to deliver you from here to somewhere else, like 50 miles away or whatever, you don't have to be at tens of thousands of feet. You could just be like 20 feet off the ground, maybe 100 feet or something like that, and that's good enough, depending on traffic. And those systems could theoretically analyze the traffic around you and be like, oh yeah, for safety reasons, I'm going to bring you up 50 feet so you're not like in this congested zone where everybody's like taking off and landing for some party or whatever. Like, because you don't want to go there, so you just want to be above it. Like, oh my god, how many times have I wished I could just like do this vectored thrust thing on my car and just lift my car up off the freeway and fly over all the bullshit. Like, I don't care about your fucking sports ball game. Like, I just want to get over there on the other side of that mess.
Well, and imagine how much like footprint of the earth you could conserve for parking.
Oh yeah,
flying cars,
right,
because you could have like vertical, like super thin, just like scaffolding effectively with like different like slots where you can put your flying car, and then another flying car elevator like comes and gets you and brings you to the ground or whatever.
Yeah, which there's actually things like that for cars already.
So, or an actual elevator, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and actually that brings up a really, really interesting point. You have made a very profound statement here about the environment. Flying cars mean that you don't need roads anymore, so you don't have
eventually to, it's going to be a very long gradual process.
It will be, but we don't have to build new roads. You don't have to cover everything in asphalt or concrete. Like, you don't need parking spaces the same way that you used to. Like,
just cover them in solar panels like in Star Trek.
You got solar freaking roads, which, by the way, is kind of a stupid idea, but I mean, I get where they're coming from. But not having to have surface transportation pathways mean you don't need neighborhood roads. Even you could just you can have gardens in the middle of the road, whatever you want, because you fucking fly, right? Like, you just go up in the air and go anywhere. So it's kind of because today, the way it works, if you want to connect one place with another for transportation, you have to have a road. So you have to dig everything up. You've got to cover everything and stuff. Make this path. You have to support it. You got to put signs, lights, whatever.
And then you have to figure out what to do with the runoff from the rain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and adding the culverts and stuff for the water getting through, and like, you don't have to do that if you fly.
Yeah,
none of that stuff has to exist.
If we're gonna go toward flying cars, I really think we need to figure out hydrogen power to kind of get away from oil altogether.
Well, yeah,
imagine like an oil leak in your flying car, and you're like walking along, and like a bunch of oil hits you.
Well, that would be if it was like powered by kerosene or jet fuel or something. But the modern day drone cars, like the personal drones, are all electric. So it just comes down to where that electricity comes from, and it should be nuclear, unless you're an idiot.
Well, is that a good idea though? Like with cars that could technically get into collisions quite readily?
Well, no. You can have batteries, but the charging for the batteries should come from nuclear power sources. That was my point.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought you
Yeah.
meant like nuclear powered cars. I'm like, whoa, now.
Maybe not until they have like Mr. Fusion or something like that. That would be a lot safer. No, but just the general grid power being nuclear is what we should be going towards. And yeah, batteries. Now that is a valid point that energy density is a problem, like how much power you have available, the flight time based on a charge is currently an issue, but even that is being worked on right now. There's new battery technology coming out every day. There's all kinds of cool new stuff in that realm. Um,
So wait, electric cars don't require any lubrication?
Generally not. Like bearings typically would have to be greased, but that's about it.
Huh.
Yeah. So, and actually, I in the documentary "Who Killed the Electric Car," which I highly recommend. Very, very interesting. Um, they talked about the EV1, one of the, I think it was like 1989, 1990 electric car project that was done in the US. Um, Normally, a car would have to come in for servicing and there'd be issues and wear and tear. And they interviewed some of the mechanics who were basically on standby to deal with the EV1 when it came in for repair. And they said, yeah, like there wasn't anything wrong with it. Like we just kind of check a few things and send it on its way. Like it didn't even need any work. Like so
Took a germs.
yeah. Well, and now there's that's a point that I think a lot of people really take to heart, and with every old job lost, there are new jobs gained.
Yeah, electrical engineers take the place of mechanics.
Yeah, exactly. Programmers, whatever. Like
Yeah.
there's and they're higher paid. Like, do you really want to be a mechanic making like $12 an hour, or do you want to be some kind of programmer making like $100 an hour? I'll settle for the latter, honestly. And there's a lot of new opportunities that come out too, with people hot rodding things and modifying things, and it's not going to get rid of any jobs. It will be a net positive in the end, I think. Well, and batteries too. There's all kinds of things that will emerge from this new dimension, and it'll be good, I think. I don't know. I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
I'm not faithful right now. Like I think that people who believe that everything that exists currently is awesome, like no, it really isn't. I mean, we're basically in the Model A territory of autonomous vehicles. If you equated autonomous vehicles to the development of the car, we're really in the very, very beginning stages. But it's an exciting time to be alive. Like witnessing this evolution is awesome, and participating in it. We all should be participating in it. It's cool. Like, oh, man, like.
What about the idea of the water powered car, like hydrolysis or whatever?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I remember we talked about that a lot at Sherry's back in the day, 20 years ago or more. And I remember you saying that like the limiting factor was conductive material. right? Like it had to be gold or something.
Something that wouldn't corrode, like iridium or something. Because in my tests, I used aluminum, and that doesn't last long. I started with steel, and that lasts even less long. Um, and yeah, so Stanley Meyer is a guy, or was a guy. He mysteriously died. Some people say it's a conspiracy, and I don't necessarily feel that that's misplaced. Like, think about it. If somebody did discover a way to power a car without petroleum products, there might be a lot of people who might want to get rid of this guy. Yeah. So now, some things, it's like, well, thermodynamics, and like, I don't know if I necessarily buy it, but he demonstrated it multiple times. He had a car that ran purely on water. Like, he believed in it very strongly. And, there is enough energy there to be able to do that, to be able to run a car.
Well, and I mean, the good thing about it is, I mean, like, yes, thermodynamics, but there's obviously going to be some loss, but the net loss is going to be far less than, the fossil fuel system, because hydrogen and oxygen, you break them apart for your energy and they float into the atmosphere as their constituent parts. They just automatically come back together again, though.
Yeah, they turn back into water. So you take your water and you break it apart.
It's almost a perpetual sort of resource.
Well, and if that works, that's something worthy of exploration. Like,
I mean, of course, some of the molecules will bond with other things, so you will have loss, but like,
there's always entropy from heat and whatever.
Yeah.
But, and so the test that I did, now granted, I didn't have like very high level measurement equipment, but the tests I did demonstrate that it's possible to get more, like, it wasn't a loss. Like, the combustion of the hydrogen oxygen mixture yielded more energy than I had to put in to break them apart in the end. And it was self-sustaining.
Interesting.
And now Stanley Meyer, the water powered car guy, he had a system that didn't just simply pass energy through electrodes and electrolyze the water. He had something that it was like some kind of particular, like a pulse frequency, kind of like frequency modulation thing. And so he found a particular frequency that created more of a reaction. And some people suggest that maybe he kind of tapped into this 0 point energy thing. Like, maybe there's a hidden dynamic that we don't know about. And he just stumbled upon it.
Well, and because the byproducts of H2O, I mean, you only have two byproducts.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You could technically capture the exhaust and reflux it.
Yeah.
And have almost perpetual fuel. You'd have to top it off here and there. Yeah. But, and I mean, it's water, so big fucking whoop.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and one of the most telling things from Stanley Meyer's design was that it didn't generate any heat. The temperature did not change very much, by maybe like a couple degrees or so.
That's not a lot of energy, really.
Well, that's the whole thing, because if you just simply electrolyze water, it generates a massive amount of heat. So whatever he did was special. And I do kind of feel like it kind of is kind of a conspiratorial thing going on. Like, there were the powers that be, whether it be the big oil industry, the government, the US government that wanted to perpetuate the petrodollar, so they can fight their wars and stuff like that. Who knows? I don't fucking care.
Okay, so you've got Tesla though.
Mm-hmm.
No fossil fuels there. But Elon Musk is still alive. So, but he's huge, like a huge figure, right?
Yeah.
Big figurehead.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, really, maybe that's all it takes is one of these super famous billionaires, instead of like trying to get us to Mars, maybe put money into a water powered vehicle.
Well, sure. Yeah. Because Stanley
and if they end up dead, there's going to be a lot of questions.
Exactly. Because Stanley was kind of like just a farmer, and an experimental developer, engineer kind of guy.
That's the challenge for Elon Musk that kitchen sink microscopy is proposing. Never mind your $6 billion in stock to feed the hungry right now. Why don't you put that money into a water powered
engine?
Yeah. I don't even want to just say cars, but like, you know, anything that could be powered, you know, like a lawnmower, whatever, you know, anything that currently requires combustion of fossil fuels, replace it with water, sink your money into that, because nobody's going to kill you.
Yeah, no, exactly. There's no way anybody, like, he's too well known. If he just disappeared, there'd be some kind of like massive investigation, and internet sleuths would be all over it. Like, there's no way they could hide that.
That's using privilege.
Yeah, exactly. And we should. Truth to power, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm on board with that. Like, energy is the key. That's what we live on, is energy. So if we could have an engine that used the most ubiquitous material on Earth, that is water, to produce power, like without limitation, that would be a huge game changer. The whole world would be different. Like, man, I mean, the only thing that could top that would be like warp drive, or I guess maybe replicators.
Yeah.
But I mean, that would be a huge deal.
And yeah, fossil fuel industry is going to suffer. I mean, there's still plastics and stuff that, you know, they could stay afloat with, a few of them, but you know, that's tough shit, you know, like what good's your money going to do you if the planet like catches on fire in 30 years, you know? Like,
well, and what you're saying there is you took my gerbs argument, you know, there will be new opportunities that will emerge out of these changes. Like, you'll just go to different things, and that's a thing. Like, perhaps BP will suddenly become a battery manufacturer.
Yeah, or find a way to optimize. Yeah, like get more energy out of water. You know, like, because water is a finite resource too. Yeah. So, like,
you know, of course, if you're using it the way we're talking about, it kind of like circulates.
Yes, but as we were also saying, like, there is going to be some loss because thermodynamics.
Sure, exactly. But these big companies have the resources, the capital, to do really great things, like things that you and I could never do. We couldn't even imagine doing. Like, when you have billions of dollars or hundreds of billions of dollars of disposable cash, you could do some amazing things, and they should be. Oh man, wow.
Well, and imagine the other, like, technology that we could potentially start to develop if we had basically an endless supply of energy. You know, like, there are probably, I don't know, maybe there's a road to Star Trek style replicators or transporters, or, you know, like, imagine the world with replicators and transporters.
We would want for nothing at that point.
We know it's actually like feasible to transport because we've moved particles.
Yeah. And feasible to transmute one atom, like an atom into a different atom.
Yeah.
It is possible. So,
Yeah.
so all of those things are not necessarily pure fantasy. They're plausible at some point.
Yeah. And a lot of it is energy limiting.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that would take a shit ton of energy and, like pollute the earth even more and blah, blah, blah. So fuck it, whatever. But if we were just using water.
Well, and atomic bonds carry a lot of potential energy within them. So
here's a question. Would the water have to be distilled or deionized, or could it have electrolytes in it?
I guess it depends
could you technically use ocean water to power something?
It depends on the technique you use. Like in my experiment,
because there's power in ionizing bonds too.
That's very true. In my experiments, I had to have conductivity, so I had to have an electrolyte in there, i.e., salt. So that facilitated all those reactions. Now, I don't know about Stanley Meyer's thing. Like it seems that this whole frequency pulse thing was a factor, and that might have nothing to do with conductivity. So I don't know. Maybe both. It's possible. Like imagine, like
we're just over here like solving the environment crisis.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, this is why we need more STEM in school. Like,
and more conversations like this.
Yeah, exactly. Like people need to be experimenting and exploring and trying things and talking about stuff, sharing ideas across the world. Like this is not a national thing. This is a global thing. I just wish people get over their hangups over their fucking country, like borders and all that bullshit. Oh God, don't get me started on that.
There's a bit of microscopy way back in the vault for that.
Exactly. Like we are one planet, and it's kind of a scary thing. And maybe this is a motivating factor for people who think that, like, they look at things through the lens of their country or their political party or whatever. Like, we're basically a ball of dirt, a very insignificant, tiny ball of dirt floating in the vacuum of space, full of chaos and radiation and danger, and actually the odds are extinction level events are very common. Like we might be gone tomorrow. The thing I wanted to talk about that originally I was thinking about is that NASA launch of the asteroid pushing machine. Like that's not really a thing yet. Like Armageddon with the nukes, blowing things up. Like, yeah, that was a fun movie, but it's not going to happen. We're going to die. It's happened before. It'll probably happen again. Well, it will happen again. It's inevitable. It's just a question of when. So we should find solutions while we can, while we have this chance to talk together and share our ideas. I mean, it's never been more possible to share ideas with the internet. The whole planet is interconnected, and it's about to be even more interconnected. There are people out there with fantastic ideas, people who think in ways that couldn't even be imagined, that maybe can come up with like super novel ideas that I'm sorry, I'm going off on a tangent.
Now you got me thinking, how would a water-powered rocket in space function? Because you've got roughly 4 Kelvin temperatures on the exterior of your vessel.
Mm-hmm.
So if you did have some kind of like reflux capturing of your exhaust to recycle it, how would that affect the actual reflux? Like I think there might be problems that need to be like overcome, and that's probably for the NASA people
Yeah. Like there are people.
I'm not going to figure that out.
Yeah, there are people way smarter than us that can figure that out.
Now, I know enough to know it might be a problem, but
yeah, now hydrogen, oxygen rockets are totally a thing like that.
mm-hmm.
That's entirely possible. In fact, it's pretty common. But like recycling the exhaust into future fuel, that's very Star Trekian, honestly. Like,
well, I mean, it is kind of possible. I mean, at least to stretch your fuel and be more economical with it. Like, we could get pretty long distances with very little, cost.
Well, that's true. Materials cost and things. Now, of course, you don't have to have continuous thrust to move forward in a vacuum,
right?
Although
you have to make corrections and stuff.
Well, if you want gravity, you have to have continuous thrust. So the Star Trek idea of these like gravitational platforms under the floor that simulate gravity, like, it kind of sounds like bullshit. Like, how many black holes are on the Enterprise? Like, that's what. And then what happens as you transition between them? Like, in the show, it's centuries in the future. Who knows? Maybe somebody figured it out. But there's an easier way, and that is you take the acceleration that is equivalent to the gravitational pull on Earth, and you accelerate at that rate continuously towards your destination halfway. Like, so you go all the way to the midpoint, and then at the midpoint you turn around and decelerate with the same deceleration level, I guess, and you essentially have gravity, like Earth-like gravity on a spacecraft.
Or if your vessel was a giant ring and it just rolled, now you'd have that centrifugal force creating gravity.
Yeah, now it would have to be a giant ring, because small rings have problems. Like, your head is in a different gravitational pull than your feet, like, oh man, how disorienting and nauseating.
Yeah, the whole ring world idea is a little fantastical.
But the important thing is, there are ways. Yeah. But it's a good story. The important thing is, there are ways of mitigating these things. There are things, it is possible to do it with current technology. Like, we can create propulsion that provides continuous acceleration akin to Earth's gravitation. It's totally doable right now. We could totally do it. Doesn't require any magical boxes under the floor panels or anything like that.
I just realized we went from autonomous cars to, like, how do we fly through space with water?
That's what makes this show so awesome. Oh man.
Yeah, the tangents we go off on.
I know.
It's awesome.
It's all kind of connected, though.
Yeah.
Like, in a way, I mean, it's obviously connected because we made those connections through conversation. Like, oh man.
Yeah. So yeah, like, if you're watching Elon Musk, here's
we present a challenge to you.
Yeah, here's the kitchen sink microscopy challenge. Sink your money into water power.
Yeah.
Like water powered engines. And why don't you water power your mission to Mars?
Yeah. Buy up all of Stanley Meyer's patents, like, find all of that stuff.
Yeah, build off the shoulders of giants and
exactly
use your money for good. Because I mean, honestly, like, you create water powered engines, you're actually probably going to affect the world economy for the better. Like, transportation becomes cheaper, food becomes cheaper, food becomes more accessible. Hungry people aren't hungry anymore.
Yeah,
boom.
Exactly.
Your water-powered engine just solved hunger.
And actually, wars would probably not occur, because a lot of wars have to do with resources around energy. Yeah. So
And yeah,
that would be a
you'd
benefit.
be able to like cheaply transport things to remote locations,
Yeah.
solving hunger. You
Yeah.
know, like a lot of the problems are like getting the food there in time cheaply, you know,
Mhm.
like before it perishes and blah blah blah. Like water power.
Yeah.
There you
Now,
go.
now, we could ask Elon Musk, but I would also ask
NASA couldn't figure this shit out, but we did.
and I did actually perform experiments. Like this is not like a bunch of hokum and mysticism. Like I did actually test it, and it's like very promising. Um, so now we can challenge Elon Musk, but I would also challenge Jeff Bezos talking about
And
transportation.
Branson.
Yeah, like so. How about make your Amazon vehicles water powered?
Yeah.
Try that.
And Bill Gates, like he's huge into like uplifting third world countries and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And this would be like a boon to that sort of
Yeah,
goal,
totally.
you know, like
And being in a position where you're a prominent person that somebody would notice if you disappeared overnight,
yeah.
you're at
Like
very low risk of.
and why not, right? Like all these billionaires made their money not with oil.
Yeah,
So if they all came together and were like, you know what, screw you guys, we're gonna develop water powered technology and save the planet, who's gonna tell them no?
more power to you.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Exxon. Like, yeah, like we should be doing this for the sake of the future of all mankind. We should be doing this. We're all the thing is we're like I was saying earlier, we're all on this planet together. It doesn't matter if you're a billionaire or whatever, or somebody living in some kind of shanty town somewhere. Like we all have the same existence, essentially the same threats. Like the meteorite is not going to care if you
yeah.
have a lot of money or not. They don't care. It won't care if you're an artist or a teacher or somebody working at Kmart. You're gonna die the same. It's gonna kill you the same way. That is what the
Yeah.
universe is.
The great philosopher Pete Steele from Typo Negative said, "We're all cremated equally."
That's a good statement. Oh, damn. Wow. Man, this show is so good. Fuck, I I'm honestly like I don't have any more words. This is a really good episode. Oh man. The thing is like I just want people on earth to get along with each other. Look at people as citizens of earth, not from different countries, not in different nationalities or races or other bullshit. We're all of earth. And we would know that would become very clear if we ever had an invasion from some alien race that came here and attempted to take over the planet. We wouldn't see each other as like people from different countries. We'd be like, oh wow, we're being invaded. There's a bunch of aliens. We got to defend ourselves. Like we would come together. And maybe that needs to happen just so people see that, I guess. To throw in like a last minute uh tangential deviation. uh,
Well, that was a pretty cool digression. Like, it got very interesting.
yeah. So maybe we should try, because I've learned a lot about uh deposition of materials on things. Maybe we should try to make the water powered engine just as an aside experiment.
Huh.
I mean, yes, we're kind of nobodies, so it does put us at risk
Yeah.
if we're successful.
Yeah. That and the Mana Machine project that we want to try. Like,
Yeah.
man, imagine if we developed the water powered engine and the Mana Machine
Oh,
and
shit.
just like saved the environment, fed everybody, like got us to Mars, all kinds of stuff. Just a, a podunk YouTube channel with like 1,200 subscribers, like,
Well,
and only 5 of those actually watch.
yeah, exactly. I would want it to be an open source thing. I want, because I believe in the concept that all information should be free. And so I want to share things with people. People should be able to see what we do, and
it pays dividends that way because it betters society. It makes things easier, which makes things cheaper, which makes living easier.
Yeah.
So it's like we don't need to be rich as long as we're comfortable and fed and, have a roof over our heads and stuff. Like,
actually, that's a really good point. Like, if you can make things less expensive, doesn't that make you more wealthy?
yep. Like that's the whole thing. It's not about like getting the most things, like the most Bitcoin or the most dollars or whatever. It's about like making the most of it.
Yeah.
Like all we do is like print more or whatever, and like there's all this like complex economy shit that has like 2 parts psychology and 1 part math, and it's like, what the fuck are we doing? Like,
exactly.
it's ridiculous. Like we all need to survive. There's no numbers involved in that.
No, that's true. Yeah.
None whatsoever. It's a simple, like, I mean, unless you want to start counting like adenosine triphosphate molecules. Like,
okay,
seriously.
so how much ADP do you have in your
ATP?
Yeah, sorry, my cat was distracting me.
I think at some point it does break down to adenosine diphosphate, but
well, okay, hey, all right,
that's part of the process. But
I'm smarter than I know. But yeah, no, that's a really, really good point. That, man, wow, we've digressed in kind of a remarkable way.
I somehow like married economy and biology together, like from talking about autonomous cars, and water powered vehicles.
Oh man, like nobody, come on, the viewers, the few that we have, who the hell does this?
Yeah, share this shit.
Who's able to do this? Like what the hell?
Share it, make it viral. Hashtag kitchen sink microscopy challenge.
Hashtag water powered.
Water power.
Yeah.
Hashtag Elon Musk. Whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, Elon Musk actually might engage with us. He's actually kind of a cool guy. So yeah, maybe
I'd have to meet him. I'd have to have him on the show before I make that judgment.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Like maybe sometime we can actually have him as guest. That'd be cool.
Come on, Elon.
Mm-hmm.
You want to join the conversation.
Yeah. Well, we have ideas and a pretty broad skill set in a variety of areas. So with a little bit of funding, we might be able to make it happen. Imagine a Tesla that instead of charging batteries or whatever, you just like pour some water into a port and boom, you've got 300 miles of range.
Yep.
Like how valuable would that be?
It
might actually be possible. So, and hi, Floyd.
And then, like for your radiator, you just pee into it.
Yeah, you run out of gas and you take a piss in the tank. Oh man. I
Rich with electrolytes.
mhm. I think it's actually possible based
Full of
on
marrowbone jelly.
I think it's possible based on the limited experiences and experiments that I've done. Like it might work. We should do some tests on that. But that's a whole different. That's like a KSU kind of thing. Oh,
Yeah.
for those who don't know, KSU, Kitchen Sink University.
The few classes we had.
uh,
Been on a sabbatical for a couple of years.
just a bit, but it'll come back again.
Yeah, it's a cool idea. Like if anyone out there has something that they're passionate about teaching, submit a video to us because we'll throw it on the channel, Kitchen Sink University. It's all about just teaching what you know.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I like that. I'm an open source dude, so if somebody else has a cool educational video, sure, we'll throw it
Yep.
on there.
Yep.
Man. Well, that might be a good point to end on. Like, I don't even know what to classify this episode as. Like, oh man, we went down all kinds of paths. Man, oh. But I think
autonomous cars, electrolyte based sort of engines, and first ever sneeze in 3 seasons. I feel it coming on. I'm trying to fight it off, but it's gonna happen.
Wait, don't give me the COVIDs, man.
through the webcam, yeah. No, Ed, I think it's subsiding. No sneeze.
Okay. Well, that's the next iteration of the COVIDs is the digital version. Oh man.
You've got COVID. You gotta be pretty old to get that one.
Oh man. Well, I think.
Oh, by the way, like I'm turning 40 pretty soon.
Oh shit.
And I've been trying to think of like something apt to do. What do you think about doing a live in-person kitchen sink microscopy episode with like audience participation, like in the flesh?
That might be kind of cool. Yeah. Oh yeah. I like that idea.
Yeah.
Now doing a microscopy episode live, it's not going to be a minute long. Oh wait, no. Minute microscopy would be a minute. Well,
yeah.
Minute. No,
I'm talking about like a regular episode, but like we go to a bar somewhere, like and just riff on shit and have a webcam recording it and bring people up on stage or whatever and join the conversation. And
you can have our people in the local area participating, and
I might be able to pull that off because I know a guy with a venue and a sound system and everything.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure we'd have like Joe and Ted probably.
Oh, for sure.
Physically there. It's a good idea. Yeah.
I'll see what I can put together.
All right. Well, so when is that happening?
I'm thinking maybe the 18th, like a Saturday or something.
Okay.
My birthday is the 30th, but like that's like a Thursday or something, and the Christmas and New Year's both fall on the weekend, so I was like, maybe the weekend before that.
Well, being that close to New Year's, maybe that could be good too. Doing like a New Year's / birthday.
Finding a venue though, like on New Year's.
That one that isn't full of like people being obnoxious.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's something to think about.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the viewers, if you are still here with us, tell us what you want.
Yeah. Ringing my 40th with deep sink diving.
over the hill, man. Yeah.
All right. Well, if you have ideas on autonomous cars or flying cars or water-powered cars or water-powered rockets to Mars, all that shit rhymes. Or too much beer, leave it in the comments or the live chat. And yeah, stick around for the song. It's probably going to be George Jetson-esque. And
I'm sure it'll be good. Yeah.
thanks for deep sink diving with us into every goddamn thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, to Elon Musk out there, hey, give me a call, buddy.
Hashtag kitchen sink microscopy challenge or KSM challenge. It's probably easier to type.
Yeah. Well, for everybody who's still here, have a good night.